So we're here the week before Christmas in wonderful sunny South Florida. It's about 79 degrees. We're in shorts, of course. It's freezing in other places in the country. And last week we discovered an issue on the 5,000-gallon reef in Fort Lauderdale that was pretty significant. We've seen it before, only one time, by the tangs, but what was happening was that the sea urchins were eating the 795. Hey Ollie, you want to go?
Hey buddy.
So there's the Christmas tree. We're getting close here to the end of the year. And Joe was in the aquarium diving about 2 weeks ago or so and noticed that some of the 795 was coming out between the thick 3.5-inch thick acrylic front panel and the end wall of the FRP tank itself, which is fiberglass reinforced product tank. So the big window in the front of that aquarium sits in and is inset. And then there's 795 and other sealant all around the face of the aquarium that holds the water into the box. And what Joe discovered was that he saw it physically. Sea urchins going up and down like they do on the back wall of the aquarium, eating the microalgae that's growing literally on the 795. And Gio went in the Friday before last and also verified and documented that, so much so that there was a piece of the backer rod, which is a kind of a foam-filled filler rod that they put in that seam, was coming loose. It was actually coming out. So there was no silicone sealant waterproofing that area. And that was pretty alarming.
All these aquariums, you have fiberglass, and then you have a viewing panel that's made out of acrylic. There's an outside seal and there's an inside seal, and then the inside's got backer rod. And what happens is over time, you have a whole bunch of crustaceans in the aquarium. That's very natural. We use these crustaceans to help with the removal of algae. And over time, you get algae growing on that silicone, and they just start biting at it little by little. You have a whole bunch of little worms, you have the tangs, you have urchins, you have crabs. They're just trying to feed and trying to eat the algae. It's all in the silicone. And what happens is over time, that silicone just erodes away. This is a good example. It happened in our aquarium over in Atlanta. It happened on this aquarium here. We've been keeping a close eye on this aquarium, so we went ahead and took care of this project before we have any catastrophic leak.
So we went ahead and communicated with the owner and let them know that the way to fix it really was to go into the aquarium probably 2 days back to back, which we achieved, and grind down on the acrylic near the edges so you can't see it from the front end of the aquarium, the front face of the aquarium. Grind down the acrylic with just like a 60 grit for an inch, inch and a half down the left seam, the right seam, the floor of the aquarium, and the top seam if we needed to. But I think that top seam was above the water level. So we got the compressor in the van outside right now, which works out fabulous. We can cut and do all of it. Here's the compressor line from the van outside to inside. And then we have Gio into the aquarium right now, and he's running it and buffing the edges.
So what we do is we just get this acrylic strips. This gets sanded down at a shop by our professional Buddy Allen, which does all the back end work. We go ahead and jump in, we hit it with the grinder. We edge the surface of the acrylic panel and a little bit on the gel coat protection of the fiberglass of the aquarium.
The goal was to grind it down, clean up the 795, and then go in there with tubes of 795 and a hand caulking gun and fill in the seams with 795, and then put the lap joint, which is the acrylic, glued on to that area so that the urchins could never go back through and touch the seam in and of itself. It took Gio doing all of the diving, actually. 3 cases of 795, that's 36 tubes of 795, which is non-toxic, and hence why the urchins were eating it and not even getting affected by it. They were just literally scrubbing the silicone or the 795 sealant and eating the algae on it. And that's how they were doing it. So it was really alarming, to say the least. He filled in at least 8 or 9 feet of void area where there was no 75, where the 795 was just flapping around, and pumped in there with the silicone gun 36 tubes around the whole thing, and, you know, fix that seam so that we'd never have water coming out. The last thing we want is a phone call right before Christmas that there's water leaking out of the front of the aquarium. So it's a real learning experience, and, you know, things happen, and animals I guess really because these are some of the larger reef aquariums that we have, the one up in Georgia and this one in Fort Lauderdale, that are really significant. And you have to have, you know, a pincushion urchins or royal pincushion urchins or things of that nature, astrea snails, zebratoka snails, eating the algae. You even have to have tangs, obviously, in the aquarium. And those are always eating the algae too. And they will just pick at the 795. It isn't toxic to them. I don't know that they're digesting it, but they may be, or they just spit it out after they eat through the algae off of there.
And this will create a nice barrier where the fish and the inhabitants in the aquarium can't get to the silicone again in the future. So it's more of a permanent solution. Not all aquariums are the same. They're all very custom. This is something that sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. So that's why we monitor it closely. And in this case, I believe we caught it in time. And we're here today to do a professional job and have some fun while we do it. We're always on top of all the equipment and maintenance. We have a whole bunch of checklists that we go down to make sure everything's working properly. So safety is a big part of our dives. We always have a team of 2, one in the water, one above. And then we have straps. We have this platform that came out real nice. Access all above. Gives a nice area for us to come up. We have a buddy system as well, so we communicate underwater in case of anything as well. Buddy Allen is the one on the other side of the mic. That's why it's labeled after him. We got the light.
So we really professionally, attacked it as in a really organized fashion. Buddy was there to help. Geo has the underwater communication device, so you can communicate with the guy outside of the aquarium. Capacity more tubes. We need this size piece of whatever, piece of acrylic cut. And we worked collectively together over the last 2 days to solve this issue in a really significant manner. It's a really exciting end to 2024, and we look forward to rolling into 2025 in a really positive direction. We've got a lot of really fantastic things coming along right now. I'm headed to the Bahamas right after Christmas, and then we'll look forward to seeing you next year. Remember to like, subscribe, and watch those sea urchins eating the 795.